Hello, everyone, and welcome to my new show called Out of Nowhere. Well, I've got a special guest on my show today. His name is Philip Permont. I think last time Philip was on my show was about 5 years ago. He travels the world. He's an author of Crystal Healer, volumes 1, 2, and the Book of Crystal Grids, and a complete guide to crystal chakra healing. Can we please welcome Philip to the show? Hello there.
Hello, Bob. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. It's so nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, we spoke, I think 4 or 5 years ago, didn't we?
I think so. Yes, quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
A lot of people might know you or not know you. Tell us a bit of brief history how you got into crystal healing.
Well, most people come across alternative therapies when they need them. And I'd always been interested in different things, alternative things, but I'd never really needed it myself. And then one day I did. And I basically, I was in hospital. I had an operation. This is going back 33, 34 years now. And I had something called Crohn's disease, which is where the gut swells and it swells in and it blocks itself. And so they sort of cut a bit out and then they stick it back together with whatever they've got handy. I don't know, sometimes staples or sewing it with stitches or sellotape, whatever they've got. I don't know, packing tape. Anyway, so I had this operation and the doctor said after it, when I came round from the anesthetic, they said, hey, the operation was a great success. Sorry you can't walk because we've cut the sciatic nerve going to your right leg. And at this point in time, I instantly got into alternative therapies. And I tried anything and everything, almost everything you've ever heard of, a whole load of stuff you haven't heard of, a whole load of stuff I wish I hadn't heard of, just anything and everything, including crystals, of course. And the moment I realized something was working was I went, in those days I smoked. So everyone smoked in those days, most people.
Yeah.
And you could also smoke in the hospitals in those days as well. That's
right, yeah.
everyone smoked. So that would be a shock for lots of younger listeners, watchers. But yeah, we could smoke in hospital. And a cousin of mine had brought me in some cigarettes, and I wanted to have a cigarette. But you couldn't smoke in the rooms because there was oxygen in the rooms, and they were afraid you'd blow up the hospital. So what they had was a smoking area inside the hospital. And I had these two wheelie things, and one side was a drip going into my arm, and that was like on one of these wheelie things. And the other side, there was this big box. You want this? Sorry, I've got a dog here, which is really wants a chew. Yeah. There was this big box, and it was pumping pre-digested food into my heart. And that's always a weird thing because I always wondered who digested the food. Anyway, forget that. And there's this box, and it's also on a wheelie thing. So I've got these two wheelie things, and I'm like getting myself out into the corridor to this smoking area so I can have a cigarette. And I'm standing there having a cigarette. And a nurse comes along and says, what are you doing here? And I think, oh, here we go. The whole smoking talk,
Yeah.
And she says, you can't walk. Get back to bed. And I thought, okay, something's happening here. And so I finish the cigarette. I go back to the room. And when I get back into the room, on the side of the bed is a crystal, a bit like this one. And he just looked at me and he said, so now you get it. And this was really the moment that I started to understand crystals and work with crystals. Really a life-changing moment. And just by the way, I walked out of the hospital 6 weeks and 2 days after I was told I would never walk again. So all of this stuff really works just from personal experience. And since then, I mean, the last 4 years or so, I've worked with literally hundreds and hundreds of clients. I teach crystal healing to anyone that I can, all over the world. I'm off to America next month to teach. I'm doing an American tour. So yeah, it's just really quite an incredible thing. I love it. It works, and they're there the whole time. But crystals are around us the whole time because our entire technology, you know, the only reason why you and I are talking now on opposite sides of this country is because of crystal technology. You know, there are crystals in our computers. There are crystals in the dishwasher, the tumble dryer, the washing machine, the TV, the space station going round above us, everywhere. And crystal technology has been the main form of all human technology has been based on crystal technology since our earliest ancestors came down from the trees, and they started banging two stones together to make controlled fire. And that was the first bit of human technology. And we've been working with crystals ever since. They literally run our 21st century lifestyle. They are the most incredible things, the energy from crystals. Oh, sorry, I've lost some sound on you, Bob. Okay, I'll carry on for a minute whilst Bob's trying to unmute himself. I think Bob's muted himself, and so I'm just going to carry on talking. I don't know if you can hear me, Bob. Okay, if someone on the messages. Sorry, I can't hear you at all now, Bob. I don't know if you can hear me. I can see you're speaking and saying words. So maybe someone who's on the chat at the moment, if you can just say if you can hear Bob, or if you can hear me, or if you can't hear anyone. There seems to be a technical issue. Oh, Steph, thank you. You can hear me. Can you hear Bob? Thank you, Stargazer. Who's that? Stargazer Natal. Stargazer Eternal One. Oh, can't hear Bob. Okay. So, okay. Shall I just carry on talking for a minute about crystals until Bob sorts himself out there with what he's doing? But anyway. So this book, so this is my latest book, Crystal Connections, and this all came about because 33 years ago this happened. This amazing, really like a lightning bolt of energy of wow, this happens and this works and it's fantastic. And then in 2007 I wrote my first book, and I went to my publishers, who are now my publishers anyway, they weren't then, and I said, look, I've got this amazing book, and they said all of this stuff about healing is absolutely brilliant, that all of the healing stuff is fantastic, and yeah, we'd love you to write a book on that, but you know, talking to crystals, listening to crystals speaking to you, that's a bit weird, that's a bit off the wall, so maybe we won't do that. Bob, I can hear you again. Okay, great. So anyway, so I wrote my first book, which was The Crystal Healer, which is the commercial name I go under as well now, The Crystal Healer.
Yeah.
So I wrote that book without all of the other stuff. But then when you've sold 500,000 books around the world, your publishers tend to print what you want to write. And so that's how we ended up with this one. So yeah, this is my latest book, and it is all about connecting with crystals, speaking to them, understanding them, listening to them, talking to them, hearing them, and understanding what they're saying to you on every level. Yeah.
One of the questions many of people will ask is, where can you find crystals?
You can find crystals, luckily enough, in any store. There are crystal stores all over the place. You'll find some in like, I mean, you're up on the coast there, aren't you, Bob? So
Yeah.
some of the seaside, little seaside stores will have crystals amongst them. But the specialist stores you'll find dotted around all over the place, definitely in the larger cities, larger towns, all over the world now, really. And you can also buy online. If you're buying online, do think about just buying from reputable people that you know, because there's a lot of stuff out there that shouldn't be, and a lot of unethical stuff, and a lot of things that just aren't what they're supposed to be. So yeah, do think about where you're buying things from. That's great as well. But you can find crystals as well, because you know they're in the ground, they're everywhere. So this country, well, firstly, the whole earth is made up of crystals and minerals, and I think it's 78% off the top of my head of the Earth's surface is actually quartz of one type or another. So not all of it's perfect crystals like this guy, but
No.
you've also got everything. You've got quartz rocks, snow quartz, you've got amethyst, citrine, smoky quartz, all of the quartzes with inclusions, they're all types of quartz, but those are still like the really impressive, beautiful quartzes. You've also got, though, every agate and chalcedony and onyx, they're all quartz. Most granite is actually made up of quartz. So the stones at Stonehenge, which are granite basically,
Yeah.
they're from the Marlborough Downs, and they have, I think it's 98%, 96%, somewhere around there of them is actually made of quartz. So quartz is all around us all the time, and you can go into your garden, you can go down to the local river, whatever, you can pick up jasper stones from just about anywhere in the UK, and that's another type of quartz. And then you've got places like Derbyshire, where there's amazing fluorite crystals. Down in Cornwall there are loads of different types of crystals, and Scotland is, you know, the Scottish Highlands, absolutely full of different types of crystals. And you don't need to go mining and digging holes and like shafts and spending millions of pounds on it. You can go with a little geological hammer, if you go to the right areas where you're allowed to do these things. You know, don't go to sites of special scientific interest and places like that and cause any damage. But you know, there are places that you can go quite happily, and you can just collect stuff yourself. I've got a load of serpentine, which I actually mined. I put that in inverted commas because it's literally just hitting a rock by the side of the road, down in the Lizard in Cornwall. It is everywhere. They are all around us. But of course, the easiest place is go to your local store. Just go in, say hello, introduce yourself, say, hey, I'm interested, even if you don't know anything at all, because they'll be only too pleased to help you and to guide you along the way. And find a local course, find some workshops. You know, we don't just do, I don't just do the sort of big crystal courses, which go on for like weekends, and there are 4 levels of them. But I also do free workshops as well. And we do open days in the showroom in St Albans. So if anyone's down in the southeast, anywhere near Hertfordshire, you know, pop in. The next one's on the 20th of July. Just pop in, and we're there, and you can just, you know, come in. We do a couple of free workshops. There are loads and loads of crystals, and of course we've got one of the best selections of crystals in the UK.
It's funny, Melvin's in the chat room. He said, that's strange, I've just sent off for a pendulum board and a crystal on a chain.
Yeah, I just see that now. Yes, yeah, that's
is some crystals good for pain then, and pain relief?
Oh yes, so pain relief, there are 2 in particular. So quartz crystals like this one doesn't have to be as big as this, but sorry, just trying to put it in the wrong way round camera. Yes, we'll get used to it. So yeah, it doesn't have to be as big as this, but it, you know, you can just take this, and if you've got like a pain anywhere, say it's on my thumb, just move it in a clockwise direction in a circle like that around the thumb, just for a minute or 2, and you'll start to get some pain relief. If there's a lot of pain, then you'll need to move that for longer. And I don't know if you can see, if I turn this around a little bit this way, that if you can see there just on the edge of my thumb, can you see
Yes.
the light actually moving around as I move
I
the
can
crystal?
do. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things is that I always find this fascinating is quartz channels any type of energy, light's a type of energy, and so quartz channels that. And you've just seen it, everyone's just seen it, the light going around on my hand. And just about every single religion, every spiritual tradition around the world, doesn't matter what type it is, if it's got, you know, big cathedrals or if it's a shamanic nature-based religion, every single one of them says in one way or another, either we are beings of light, or we come from the light, or we go back to the light, or something to do with light. We're made of light. And one of the amazing things about science is quantum physics has actually shown us recently in the last sort of decade or so that that's absolutely true. We are made of light. Everything's made of light.
Mm.
But we are beings of light. Literally, we are beings of light. And if you can focus a bit more light in a bit of you that is injured or hurt, then surely if we're made of it and there's a bit more of it there, it will heal quicker. And without sort of going into loads and loads of details, just the basic idea of that really for me works. And quartz channels light. It just puts more light into you. You feel better, pain goes away, your body heals quicker. And the thing with crystals that I've found is that anything your body can do, crystals will help you do quicker. So
Right.
anything at all. Anything.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What is the human energy system?
Sorry?
What is the human energy system?
The human energy system, that's made up of three things, really. You've got lines of energy, which are known as meridians, or sometimes nadis in an Indian tradition. They're lines of energy that run through the body, basically. And there are loads of them. And where they come together, where you get two of them coming together, or you get a whole load of them crossing, you get a chakra, which is basically it's a Sanskrit word, it means wheel, but it's basically a whole bunch of energy. So there's more energy. It's like an energy hotspot. And where you've got that energy hotspot, it's just easier to exchange energy with the world around you because there's more energy there. And then that, your chakras, connect with the bit outside you, which is your aura, which is your energy field around you. And that's where you interact with everything around you.
I think, I don't know if I asked you this before I went off. Choosing a crystal, do you choose a crystal or do they choose you?
Yes, absolutely both. So, if you just go into a crystal store, really simple experiment, just go in with no thought in your mind. And in actual fact, in my new book, I actually put this in as an exercise. Just before you go in, just sit outside in your car or just stand outside for a minute and just wait a minute, just take a few deep breaths and clear your mind, and then go into the store with a totally clear mind and just wander around and see what you're drawn to. And be aware of two things. Be aware of crystals that you like, the ones that you really notice that are there going, hey, me, because they do that. But also be aware of the ones you don't like, the ones that you go to pick up and think, oh, no, I don't like the feel of that. Because there are two sides to it. The ones you like, the ones which you're going, yay, they're the ones which are going to help you with what you're actually doing or you're about to do in your life now. The ones you don't like, the ones that you can't stand, the ones that you touch and they make you feel nauseous, and that really happens, or you can't even go near them, you can't even touch them. Those ones are the life-changing ones. They're the ones which are touching something really deep down inside you and things that you don't want to look at. And so that's what they're doing. They're bringing that up, and that's why you're reacting to them, that you don't like them. So those are the crystals which are really, really life-changing. They may not be the happiest, most joyous ones for you to work with at this moment, but whatever uncomfortable things you go through will be worth it because you will release some amazing stuff and you will just feel better.
A question from Rebecca. Hi,
Yeah.
Philip. Which crystal would you recommend for a respiratory system?
Right, Rebecca, it depends what's going on because there are a few. Oh, it's come up on the screen. I see what you mean. That's clever. Sorry, I'm going to get carried away with the technology.
Yeah, comes up on the screen for you.
Yeah, last time we did this, Bob, I think we were just talking on a radio show. So
Yes, you was, yeah.
okay. So crystals. One of the things is emerald. Emerald's really, really good for the lungs and breathing. But there are others because the respiratory system is connected to all sorts of things. So it really depends on why, what's going on with it and where the fault is. Because if you've got a heart condition, then the heart's not pumping enough oxygen around the body, and that can have a really, really big effect on the respiratory system. You could have an infection. If you've got an infection that's causing the problems there, then something like amethyst, if it's a bacterial infection, or carnelian, if it's a viral infection, will help much better than the emerald. But if it's something like I don't know, bronchitis or emphysema or something like that, that's directly on the, in the lungs, then definitely emerald.
Right. She's got another question as well for you. Oh no, wait a minute, missed it. It's because somebody else is. What's the best method for cleansing your crystals? Thank you.
Best method for cleansing crystals depends on the type of crystal. Trying to give a simple answer to something that's really complex, but I love sound. So in particular, tingshas, which are Tibetan bells. I'm just wondering if I've got any down here in the living room. I don't. I've got some in the healing room and some more upstairs. But anyway, they're tingshas is the technical term. Some people call them Tibetan bells or Tibetan cymbals, and you just ding them together, and they're made of, the real ones anyway, are made of 7 different metals. Some are made of 5, mostly 7, and the sound basically bounces backwards and forwards between the different metals in them, and so they just ring and ring and ring, and literally they shake the energy out of the crystals. So if you've got lots of crystals, that's great. For lots of crystals, running water is great for cleansing them. Literally, you can just hold them under running water. Tap's fine. If you live near the top of a mountain, then a stream is absolutely brilliant and fantastic. But if you live at the bottom of the mountain, then don't. Oh, we've got a dog here. Yeah, if you live at the bottom of the mountain, then avoid the stream because the sheep have probably peed in it. So you're better off with tap water.
Paul's got a question here. Would leaving quartz crystals out in nature enhance them?
It's really good if it's something like the full moon or the new moon. Lots of people like giving their crystals a moon bathe. If they're just generally out in nature, that's where they come from. So they're like going home, if you like.
I know Rebecca said she's got Tibetan cymbals and the singing bowls.
Yeah. The Tibetan cymbals much better, Rebecca, than the singing bowl. And I think Rebecca also mentioned she had emphysema, which is emerald's the crystal, definitely.
Yeah, that's true. When you talking to crystals, can anybody do that and build on it?
Yes, absolutely, anybody. So there are different things though, because I use the word talking as in, let's change the word talking to communicating.
Yes,
I say that because we've all got 5 senses. So I'm not talking about a 6th sense or a superpower or anything else, just our normal 5 senses. We all have them. Some people see better. Some people, we both wear glasses. We don't see as well as other people. But we might hear better, or we might smell better, or taste better, or touch and feel with our hands. And you need to try all of your senses and see which ones work for you with crystals. So in my new book, have I mentioned my new book at all? I don't think I have. Yes. Crystal Connections. Yeah, it's great. You can get that from you can get it from my website, which is crystalhealer.co.uk, or any good bookshop, or any good crystal store, or Amazon if you really want to go on Amazon. Anyway, there's a lovely exercise in there about connecting with quartz crystal, and you use your eyes, you use your ears, your nose, your mouth, and your fingers and touch, and you really connect with all 5 senses, just because some people work better with one or a combination of them than others. And you need to just explore that for yourself. So can everyone hear crystals? No. Can everyone sense crystals in one form or another? Yes, absolutely.
Right, another question from Joanne this time. What is the rarest crystal? Thank you.
The rarest crystal, there's an interesting thing. There's a crystal which I'm going to go out on a limb here now, because it's just been discovered somewhere in southern Israel in the desert, I think. And I think it was discovered last year, and I can't remember the name of it, and I have never seen it. I've only seen a picture of it. That's one. There's another really rare one, which I love because it's called Philipsite. So I love that one, of course. And that is pretty unusual and pretty rare. And what else is, I mean, there are loads of crystals which are rare. Oddly enough, if you're in Hertfordshire, then Hertfordshire pudding stone is actually rarer than diamonds. Yeah, it has almost no value. Like, the farmers want to get rid of it because it just gets in the way of their harvesting machines, and they hate the stuff. But it's super rare, and basically Hertfordshire is the edge of the ice age, of where the glaciers came to in the last ice age, and they sort of just literally rolled up all of the rocks and dumped them all together in a conglomerate at the end of it. And there's this band basically in Hertfordshire, and that's it, which is why it's called Hertfordshire pudding stone. And it is one of the rarest materials on Earth. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. I think Mel just wants to ask you, what do you think of Pedenium boards and crystal on a chain?
All right. So pendulums are fantastic. The idea of a pendulum is essentially, it's a crystal on a chain. It doesn't have to be a crystal. Crystals work better than anything else because crystals enhance what you're doing. So, sorry, I just have a really inquisitive dog here who's... That's okay. That's okay. So crystal pendulums just work better because they enhance whatever you're doing. But when you start off, a crystal pendulum is going to be so much easier to work with. And it's fantastic because it just gives yes and no answers. And if you've got a pendulum board or a map or something, all different versions of that, then you can get different responses, so that you can get things like maybes as well as yes and no's, or directions, or all sorts of things. But it comes from the idea of dowsing. Every single human being alive today can dowse because it's a natural human talent. And it comes from the idea of water divining. You know, someone wandering around with twigs and Teddy, stop. Yeah, the idea of someone walking around with forked twigs trying to find water. And basically, if we couldn't find water, we died. So all of us, our ancestors, could dowse because they all found water, which is why we're here. So genetically, in our genetic blueprint, we have it, we can dowse. And yeah, it's like anything else. Some people are much better than others, but everyone can do it. Yeah. Not everyone is going to be a concert pianist when they start learning piano, but you can teach anyone to play Three Blind Mice on a piano. And it's the same sort of thing. Everyone can do it. But the key with this, though, is everyone can do it well enough to play their own song. So literally, you can get your yes and no answers. And the pendulum basically is showing you what's going on inside you. Somewhere inside you, sort of the top of your stomach, really, there's a bit that knows the answer to everything. And I call it an internal pendulum. And it goes up and it goes down. And everyone has this, absolutely. And when it goes up, it says yes. When it goes down, it says no. You've all experienced it, but normally we only experience it at the extreme. So you all know wow, this is amazing. It's a great show. It's a fantastic party. Whoa. And you all know whoa, get me out of here. I do not want to be here.
Right.
Join in. Yeah. I'm here and join in. Okay.
Right. Paul's got a question. Should we go with our own gut feeling if we are surrounded or using them?
Yeah, give me 1 second. We'll just let him out. Teddy, go out. Sorry.
All right.
Right. That should solve that. Sorry about that.
It's all right. Should we go? This is from Paul.
Yeah.
Sinclair. Should we go on our own gut feeling if we are surrounded or using them and listen to what feels right? I think we may have answered this, but I want to post it, it says.
Yeah. Paul, absolutely yes. Trust yourself. Your own gut feeling is that bit inside you going up and down, and you can call it a gut feeling, women's intuition, whatever you want to call it. It's that bit inside you. It's your internal pendulum that's saying yes and no. So when you get that up feeling, if you're looking at a crystal and you're getting that up feeling, yeah, absolutely. If you're getting the down feeling, leave it alone for the time being. Definitely 100%. In actual fact, and whilst we're on pendulums as well and that sort of thing, there's a lovely story about them. Because when I first started doing this, I was interviewed by a newspaper journalist, local paper in St Albans.
Right.
And she got really taken with a pendulum and took one home. She bought one, took one home. And she took it to the office the next day. And everyone said, oh, okay, come on, let's bet on a horse race. And one of the things about pendulums is when you treat them as a spiritual tool, they will always give you the right answer. And if you treat them as a game, they will treat you as a game. And it really is that simple. Anyway, everyone in the office put £1 on and they bet on this horse and it won. And so everyone then thought, okay, we'll put £50 on. And remember, I'm going back 35 years here. £50 is a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, it's not nothing now, but then it was seriously a lot of money. And they put £50 on each and it lost. And this is when she phoned me up and said, what shall I do? You know, they want to take me out and lynch me. What shall I do? And I said, look, the only thing that you can do is you've got to get everyone who put £50 on to put another £50 on. But this time, before you choose the horse, you've got to decide which charity you're going to give them the money to when it wins. So they did. They chose a horse. It won, and they never did it again.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. Question from Steph for Philip. What properties for healing does Blue John have, if any?
Oh, thanks. Yeah. All crystals have healing properties. Absolutely all crystals. Any mineral, any stone you find in your backyard, anything you know in the park, anything that you find on the beach, everything has healing properties. All stones, all crystals. Blue John's a type of fluorite. So fluorite generally is really good for focusing the mind, clearing the mind, and keeping you focused on what you're doing. It's also good for things like joints and bones and teeth, funnily enough, as well. Blue John in particular, because that color blue, it's helping to focus on the higher chakras up here on the crown and on the brow. And it's really good for boosting your intuition as well, and for communicating with or focusing on anything to do with your spiritual side. So spirits, angels, guides, whatever you believe is out there for you.
Right, before I move on to the next question, does crystals work better with human or animal touch?
Both, just as well. Absolutely. Yeah. So animals, we do lots of animal healing as well. And animals respond really amazingly. My two dogs actually are trained as therapy dogs. So they help in treatments sometimes if they want to. They're never forced into it. But if they want to come into a treatment, they'll come in and help as well. They choose their own crystals, and they'll choose crystals for people as well. And I used to have one dog, going back a bit now, which was a German Shepherd. And most of the time, I had a high street store then. And most of the time, he would just sit behind the counter quite happily. Every now and again, he would get up and just wander around the store. And he'd go over to someone and sniff them. And he was a big German Shepherd, so it was a bit disconcerting sometimes for people. But he'd just literally sniff them and walk away. And a couple of minutes later, he'd come back and he'd drop a crystal at their feet. And it was always exactly what they needed. Yeah. So I've worked a lot with dogs. They're really, really intuitive. I know other people who work with horses and cats. Other people work with small animals like hamsters and guinea pigs and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. And with people, it doesn't matter if people believe in crystals or not, they work. And in actual fact, whenever I do a public talk or anything and I'm looking for a volunteer to demonstrate on, I will always pick on the skeptic rather than the person who totally believes, because they're the easiest people to convince.
I like it. There's a question from Joanne. Is there a crystal that can give me more energy?
Yes, two. One's carnelian and the other is garnet. So they work in different ways, but they both really boost energy. Citrine's really good as well as a third one. But yeah, carnelian and garnet.
Ah, very interesting. Which crystals should I work with? Myself.
You, Bob. Well,
yeah.
One of them, which is really simple, is something like fluorite, which keeps you focused because you've got all sorts of things going on there. Yeah, I've got an easy job here. I'm just talking. So you're asking questions. Other people are, I just talk. So that's really easy. But you've got all this technology going on. You're organizing things. You're choosing which crystals, which questions we're going to answer. You've got a whole list of things there that you can fall back on if no one's asking a question. And you're just running the whole thing and keeping it going the whole time. And that is a much, much, much harder thing to do. And you can easily, I know you've been doing it a long time, but it's easy to get distracted if there's a really interesting question going on, or if I'm saying something and then suddenly, oh yeah, something goes wrong with the technology and whoa, what's happened? So yeah, fluorite, just to help focus, is really, really good. And also something like snow quartz, just to clear the mind and get rid of all of the other things which you just don't need in your mind when you're doing this. Calcite's really good as well. It's a fantastic calming crystal. I would recommend it for anyone at all, really.
You can carry crystals with you, can't you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I carry in actual fact, let's see. Here we go. Let's see what's coming out of the pocket. Oh. One's just flown over there, which I'll just grab. There we go. So look, here we go. These have just come. Oh, where's the camera? There it is.
Let's have a look.
Oh, there we go. That's it. Yeah.
Oh,
so
my
those
God.
are the ones which are just in my pocket right now. All sorts of things for different things. So carnelian's there. Oh, this orange one is carnelian. So one of the things about carnelian is it stops viral infections. It's really, really good. And for some bizarre reason, I've absolutely no idea, the start of the pandemic, when that happened, I just had this message come through to me about carnelian, carry carnelian. And I told a bunch of people this, and every single person who carried carnelian during the pandemic, every single one of them were COVID free. Not one of them actually got COVID. And that included nurses working in COVID wards, included a doctor working in a COVID ward. No one, absolutely no one actually got COVID. So it really is quite an amazing thing. and I don't know why that works. It is good for it's good for viral infections generally, but it's just this message that came through. Why it works for COVID in particular, I don't know. This is turquoise. Sorry, trying to remember cameras the wrong way around. There you go. Turquoise is really, really good for traveling, and keeps you safe whilst you're traveling. And it actually comes from a First Nations tradition, or what we used to call American Indian tradition. And they believe that a journey isn't necessarily traveling across the country or around the world or whatever, getting on a plane or a boat. A walk down to the local corner shop is a journey. Everything's part of your journey. So the turquoise is actually linking in with your journey through life. And they believe that there are two paths that we travel at the same time. So there's a blue road, which is represented by the turquoise, and a red road, which is often represented by red jasper. And the red road is the physical road that we walk on, literally the road we walk on. And the blue road is the road that our spirit walks on. And the two go together. This one's citrine. Citrine's, I'll get this right eventually. So citrine's really good for the gut, digestion. So as I said before, there's stuff going on in my gut. So there's that.
Right. Yeah.
There's it's also really, really good for abundance. This is a Lemurian quartz crystal. And I think you can just about see on there the little parallel lines on the side of it.
Can do, yeah.
Horizontal, yeah. So that's one of the signs of a Lemurian crystal. Not all crystals with those lines on are Lemurian, but Lemurian crystals tie in with the energy of the ancient civilization of Lemuria. Goes back about 100,000 years, one of the very, very first human civilizations. They're amazingly powerful crystals, lots of information as well as healing. And then the other one here, no, you can't have it. Yeah. The other one here is labradorite, which I think you can see there.
Oh, yeah, I've got one of them.
Yeah, and labradorite, one of the things labradorite does is it is really amazing for magic. What are you saying?
Saying hello.
I think he's saying he wants another chew. Really sorry, Bob. Give me 1 minute.
No problem. It's after a chew as well now. Communicating.
You want a biscuit? Yeah, this is the other one now getting involved, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fine.
There you are, a dog break.
Yeah, Rebecca's asking a question.
Yeah.
I've been recently drawn to a selenite tower. What reason do you think I may have been drawn to this? Thank you.
Selenite's really good for cleansing, both physically and emotionally, and also what's the other word I'm looking for? Psychologically. So if there are things which are going on physically with you, which I'm losing track, but was it Rebecca who asked the question about respiratory? Yeah. So that could very well be tying in with that. Not so much with the actual emphysema, but possibly with how you feel about it and the emotional response to it, and cleansing and clearing that out. And when we relax and you let go of those emotions, you actually breathe easier. So yeah, really good. But it could be to do with cleansing anything in your life. So yeah, absolutely anything at all, Rebecca, to do with cleansing. Selenite's great for. Also connects to the moon and cycles. So selenite is named after Selene, the goddess of the moon, and it really does link in with the moon and any cycles, behavior patterns, changing them, repeating them, different things.
Oh, thank you for that. Philip, are there any phony products out there, man-made things said to have benefits that people should avoid?
Yes. um, so it's actually the answer is yes, Paul, but it's a difficult question to pinpoint because there are some things which are man-made, which are made from natural things. So if it's something like goldstone, for example, so goldstone is man-made, but it is natural copper in a vitreous material. So it has the same effect as copper, not as good. It doesn't work as well. It's not as powerful as just native copper, but it does have the same benefits as copper. It's a fraction of the price. So, should you avoid it if you can get copper, if you can afford natural copper? I mean, it's not that expensive, but it is like 5 or 10 times the price of goldstone. So if you can afford it and you can get hold of it, then yeah, go for it. If you're in a gift shop somewhere and they've got goldstone, they're unlikely to have pure copper, then get the goldstone. It's going to help. Yeah. Any that you should avoid completely, then yes, what would I avoid? I don't like the orgone products. So some people swear by them and say they're absolutely fantastic, but they're actually made up of crystals which are smashed up and broken up and then put together into a resin. So I don't like the idea of them. And I don't like crackle quartz, which again it's a natural quartz crystal, but it's basically heated to the point that it cracks internally, so it then produces these really, really pretty patterns and picks up the light. So those are ones personally I would avoid. Are there any other? All sorts of things. There are copies of things. There's like a plastic amber, which is all over the market. Which has absolutely no effect whatsoever for anything. And you can tell the difference if it's real amber or plastic. If you get a hot needle or a hot pin and you put it in, and if it's amber, it will smell beautifully sweet like amber. And if it's plastic, it will smell like burnt plastic. It's the easiest test for it, basically. All sorts of things. Not everything man-made is bad, but some things are just absolute copies.
A lot of people say when you get crystals, you should charge them. Tell us a bit about how to charge a crystal then.
Some people like charging crystals. Personally, I think crystals are strong enough and powerful enough all by themselves. What I am in favor of is cleansing crystals when you get them, because you don't know who's touched them. If you're buying them in a store, 100 people could have picked them up and held them. Every person has got their own issues and their own stuff and their own energy. And it's not that any of that is good, bad, or indifferent or anything. It's just not yours and you don't need it or want it. So the best thing to do with that is just literally cleanse the crystals when you get them. Charging crystals, one of the problems with charging crystals, some people call it programming as well, is that you put your intent into the crystal to ask the crystal to do something. And I'm not sure we ever actually know what it is that we want. We can think we know what it is, but I'm never actually sure we know what's best for us, whereas the crystals do. So my personal thought is let the crystals do what they're doing. And also, if you focus their energy onto one thing, then what you're doing is restricting and limiting all the other things they could do. So, not quite an answer, but an answer.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. From a question from Steph. Philip, I used to have opalite necklace, and every time I put it on, the crystal would fall off. Eventually, I lost it. Could there be a reason for this?
Opalite isn't actually a crystal. So opalite is one of those man-made things, which is just pretty glass. So if you're putting it on with an intent that it's going to do something on a healing level that's anything other than related to the color, because it's got amazing colors in it and it looks beautiful. So if it's for any other reason than that, it's not doing it. So it may very well be just letting go.
I think in one of your books here, exercise for sensing crystal colors.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so one of the easy things that you can do, and it's best actually if you do this with a friend rather than trying to do it yourself. Dogs with bones behind me, yeah. So it's best if you do this with a friend. You just get some small crystals. Honey. Okay. Sorry, that's the small one telling the big one that he can't have her bone. So if you just get some small crystals and some ordinary envelopes and just put them in envelopes and get your friend to just try and work out, just literally put their hand over the envelope and just try and work out how it feels and see if they can sense which color the crystal actually is. So I wouldn't worry too much to start off with about what the color actually is, but which color, because you can sense colors just by the density, the heaviness of the feeling. So obviously the lighter colors feel lighter and the darker colors feel heavier. And with a little bit of practice, you can tell. And if you want to get your hands really, really sensitive, then do two things: rub them together really, really, really quickly for about 2 minutes. And the other thing is shake them. This is the one I really like. Just shake them really, really, really fast for about 2 minutes. What that does is it puts more blood into your fingers, into your hands, and it makes the nerves work better. So again, I'm not looking for a sixth sense here or some magical ability. It's just physically getting your body to work as well as your body can possibly work.
Very interesting, that is, yeah. What about work with crystals in art?
Oh, yeah. Chris, so this idea sort of came about because a friend of mine who was... You want this? Done. That's it. There's nothing else there. Sorry. A friend of mine, he was actually a client of mine, and I'm going back 25 years ago, and he was a useless artist. I mean, really, really nice guy, but he was hopeless. He could not sell a painting. This is what he did. It was his profession. He had no money, nothing, and he just couldn't sell a picture. And he came to me just with the idea of working with crystals to get some inspiration and get more inspired, get more creative, or get into the idea of creativity. And one day he disappeared, and I didn't hear from him for another 20 years.
Oh God.
Literally 20 years. And then one day I put an advert for a guitar I was selling on Facebook, and I get this message from him saying, "Oh, hello, I haven't seen you for a while." And I said, "Well, where have you been?" And he said, "Well," said, "sorry, I never told you, but one day it all clicked." And he was the person who invented the acrylic drying process. So you know those pictures that have got all these sort of amazing sort of colors going in all. Yeah, he didn't invent the idea of it, but he invented a drying process that allows them to be more natural. And literally overnight, from not being able to sell anything to being in every gallery in the country, he was painting during the day, drying them at night, driving all over the country the next day, delivering them. He's still in 2 London galleries at the moment, and I've got paintings of his actually in the showroom in St Albans, which I'm selling for him, where they are incredible. They're different. The crystal energy from them just feels fantastic. Yeah, but you know, you can put crystals anywhere. You know, you can take something like this, which is just beautiful in its own right, and pop it in your living room. You can have people love things like the amethyst geodes, the big amethysts. You can put crystals. You've got things which are made of crystals in sort of art form. You can get bowls. You can get candlesticks. You can get charms. You've got things like the salt lamps and selenite lamps that you can get all over the place. Just loads and loads of things. Crystals just being made into things which are beautiful.
Another question from me: why do crystals change color?
That depends on the crystal. So there are some which are technically dichloric, which essentially means that they have two colors in them, and it depends which way the light hits them as to which color it shows. So if you turn them round, they'll have different colors. Sometimes something like quartz will appear. I don't know if we can get this to do it, but
Pink.
maybe. Yeah, there we go. There's some sort of rainbowy colors, maybe a pinky thing going on in there.
Yeah,
and that's just
true.
that is just, these are faults in the crystal, and it's just literally the light hitting the faults in the crystal the way it's grown naturally, and then reflecting or refracting inside it, and giving you different colors from that. So that's purely physics. Then you get things like tugtupite, which is a really interesting one, which is mostly white, but in bright sunlight, direct sunlight, it goes pink. So that's also another way that they change, depending on the light and the type of light. Sometimes they'll change with the type of light. So some crystals will change color if you're in daylight or in artificial light. All sorts of reasons. And some crystals occasionally will fade in sunlight, so they will permanently change color. Some amethyst will. That's the main one to look out for, to be aware of.
Oh, right. I didn't know that. I'll tell you what, when you go into a shop, if you want to buy a pendulum, how can you tell it's for you?
Ask it. So the first thing you do with a pendulum is just pick up the first one you're drawn to. The first one you notice, just pick it up. Hold it at the end. There's either at the end of the chain, or there might be a bead at the end, and just hold it and just ask it to show you a yes. And it will move. It might move backwards and forwards, or round and round, or side to side, whatever it does. Just be aware of it. And then stop it and do exactly the same thing. Ask it to show you a no. And it will do a different movement. There are only 4 things it can do: go backwards and forwards, side to side, round and round, anti-clockwise or clockwise, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it will do 2 different things. And once you've got those 2 answers, then the first question you've got to ask it is this a good pendulum for me to work with? If it says no, put it back, try another one. If it says yes, great.
Brilliant. We're all right for time yet.
Yeah.
Another one from Rebecca. How often should you cleanse crystals you are using?
Okay. Depends on what you're doing with them. If you're working with them intensely for healing yourself, or if you're working with other people, where they're clients or friends, family, every single time you work with them, you should cleanse them. If they're just generally sitting around your home, your living room, your office, wherever it is, and there's nothing in particular going on that's energetically off, then once a month, full moon is a really great time to cleanse crystals, because it sort of sets it into a pattern. Every 28 days you're going to cleanse your crystals. If on the other hand there's a big row or something, maybe you want to cleanse all the crystals after that. So there isn't an answer. I would say, though, I personally don't like the term using and crystals, or use and crystals, because it has an implication that they're not friends. And I always see crystals as friends. So you wouldn't use a friend. You might work with them, you might employ them, you might do all sorts of things, but you wouldn't use them. So I just have this thing. And I know everyone says using crystals, but I just have this thing. I don't like the word use.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I've just seen some here. Crystal power, a quick experiment.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that and how we can use it.
Crystal power. Wow. They can do anything at all. So what you could do, if you've got a crystal at home, if you've got a quartz crystal, actually, you can do this. Can you do this with any crystal? Yeah, okay. We'll do something different. You can do with any crystal at all. All you have to do is take a crystal, anyone, put it in your hand, and put it in your hand, close your hand over it, and close your eyes. And just hold the crystal in your hand with your eyes closed and sit there and just see, or you can stand or lie down, whatever you want, just for a few minutes, and just be aware of where inside you or around you feel the crystal. Don't worry about what the crystal is. Don't worry about what it should do, or anything else that's been read about it, that you've read about it, or anything else. Just be totally open to where you might sense it, and just be aware of that sensation that you get, and more to the point, where it is, because sometimes it's really difficult to describe what we're feeling because crystal energy doesn't have loads of words. So we sort of make things up and say, oh, it feels hot or tingly or whatever. But that's just us relating and finding words to describe something that really doesn't have words. So just be with it and sense it and just be aware. And that, I think, is one of the most powerful things that you can sort of be aware of, crystal energy.
Thank you for that. That's wonderful. Tell us about where can people get your books, especially your new book.
My new book?
Yes.
Did I mention my new book? I don't think I did. It's called Crystal Connections. It's by me, Philip Permett. All of my books are available from my website, which is thecrystalhealer.co.uk or .co.uk. Americans don't like .co.uk. They don't understand it. But yeah, .co.uk. So that's The Crystal Healer with the TH at the beginning of it. And you can also get it from any good bookshop. So Waterstones in the UK, Barnes and Noble in the US, but anywhere around the world. It's published in every single English language speaking country in the world. And my books are also translated into about a dozen different languages that you can pick up locally in whatever country you're in as well. And of course, Amazon if you have to.
And you're going to America, did you say?
And I'm going to America, yes, in 28 days' time. In fact, 27 days now. I'm going to Fredericksburg in Virginia, which is just outside Washington, D.C. And I'm teaching crystal healing, my course level 1 and 2 for professional practitioners. So it's taking people to become professional crystal healers. And then from there, I'm going to Myrtle Beach, which sounds wonderful. I've never been there. That's in South Carolina. And apparently the venue there is 2 blocks away from the beach. So I'm going to be on a beach for the rest of that week. And then I'm going over to Tucson, the other side of the country, Tucson, Arizona, which is how I feel of one of my own spiritual homes. I've been going there for 25 years to the Gem Show. And then after that to Las Vegas. So a whole mixture, different places, different. One of the things about America is that you can do everything totally. You know, if you want to vacation, you can go to a mountain retreat, you can go skiing, you can go to a beach, you know, anything. It's just such a big place.
It sounds like it as well. Everybody says thank you again. Enjoyed the show. It's been fascinating subject. I know Melvin's just said, how do you cleanse crystals? Do we need a solution?
No. One of the easiest ways to cleanse crystals, we talked about it before briefly, was tinctures, Tibetan bells. If you haven't got them, running water for most crystals. There are a few crystals you should keep away from water. Either they're water soluble or the water might get into cracks and damage them. They're all actually listed in my book, The Crystal Healer, so and The Crystal Healer Volume 2. So both of
What
them.
about sun? What about the sun?
Sunlight can be not good, but sunlight for most crystals again is fine. If you've got a crystal ball, a quartz crystal ball, don't put it in the sunlight. They magnify the sun. They will set fire to whatever is underneath them. They will illuminate your house in the worst possible way.
Right, they would do. Yeah, Joanne said thank you again. Rebecca says thank you. Melvin, great show again. Bob from Steph, brilliant guest. Yeah, so I won't leave it too long this time. It were about 5 years this time.
Yes, next time we'll do less. It's always great talking to you, Bob. You're a great host. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you for coming on the show. My guest on Friday is Jason Kenzie. We're going to talk about a documentary series called Searching for Sasquatch. He's done a documentary. I think it's been on Amazon Prime Video, Plex TV. He's been investigating Bigfoot for quite a while. Is this Friday? That's the 5th of July, Friday at 7 o'clock UK time.
So
thank you again. Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, everybody likes something different on this show, but it's been fascinating talking about crystals again. I love it. And thank you for the book.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Bob.
You take care and enjoy your journey to America.
Thank you. And bye, everyone.
Bye.